morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a new item card that could be very, very good and could really help out a lot of decks. It is called Tag Call, and our translation for this one, like so many cards recently, comes from the lovely Antoine Boulay, who has actually been helping us out with a lot of translations with all the reveals the last couple of days. Big up to Antoine, lovely person. So, Tag Call, what does it do? Well, apparently it reads, search your deck for 2 tag team cards and put them into your hand. Now, the first question you should have with this, like I do, does this include tag team GXs or is it just supporters? Look at the wording. If it included tag team GXs, or specifically said you couldn't use GXs, you would see the GX symbol in the wording. Given that there's no GX symbol in the wording, it means it cannot say search for 2 tag team GXs, nor can it say search for 2 tag team cards excluding GXs. It is just 2 tag team cards. And this is an absolute game changer. Now, we've had tag team Pokemon since Team Up came out, and at the moment the format really is overflowing with tag team Pokemon. Pikachu and Zekrom, Reshiram and Charizard, Gardevoir and Sylveon, Mewtwo and Mew really are at the centre of the format at the moment. We are in an extremely tag team heavy format, like a crazy tag team heavy format. But we've just found out that we've got tag team supporters being released, like, for instance, Red and Blue, and I really do think that Red and Blue is the best of them. Red and Blue lets you search your deck for a GX Pokemon to evolve one of yours, evolve it straight up, and then if you discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for 2 energy cards and attach them. It really is kind of like an over-the-top good card. And this lets you search out 2 of them. Make no mistake about it, this is a phenomenal card. So what we really need to do is split it into 2 and look at it as an, ooh, I can go searching out supporter cards, and look at it as an, ooh, I can go and get my tag team Pokemon. So when we're looking at it in terms of getting the supporter cards, Lieutenant Surge. Now, to be clear, Lieutenant Surge is not a tag team supporter card, and therefore Lieutenant Surge cannot be searched with this. But Lieutenant Surge is a supporter card that reads, essentially you can play 2 more supporters this turn. The biggest issue with Lieutenant Surge's strategy is that you've got to have Lieutenant Surge and the other 2 supporters in your hand ready to go. And that's when it gets really awkward here. Well, now, instead of having Lieutenant Surge and 2 other supporters, you've got to have Lieutenant Surge and 1 item card. As long as you've got a Tag Call, you're off and ready and raring to go, and that's the big difference here. You can use this to search for 2 red and blue, and then Lieutenant Surge comes out, and all of a sudden you're playing 2 red and blue. Now, Weavile was one of the examples I gave for red and blue, and I think this is absolutely relevant here. Weavile's got an ability that lets you move your darkness energy around the field. So what you do here is you play Lieutenant Surge, you use your Tag Call to grab yourself 2 red and blue. There's no rule that says you cannot play more than 1 tag team supporter in a turn. Maybe this gets added later on, but there's nothing there at the moment. And then you can evolve 2 of your Sneasels into 2 Weavile, attaching 4 energy from the deck, and you are ready to go. Now, the other thing to point out here, and it is very relevant when we're talking about Lieutenant Surge, you have to discard cards to get the extra effect of these tag team supporters. All the tag team supporters we've seen so far, we've seen 3 of them, links to all of them in the description. All 3 of them have done one thing, and then if you discard some energy, they do an extra thing. And if you're playing 2 of them in one go, if you play 2 red and blue, you've got to discard 4 cards from your hand to do so. Now, you're also searching your deck for 4 energy and attaching them all, which I think is probably worth it. For each card you discard, you're searching your deck for an energy and attaching it to one of your Pokemon, while if you're doing the Weavile thing anyway, getting a Pokemon that can move them all around, make no mistake about it, it's totally worth it. But it is just worth bearing in mind you're going to empty out your hand. It doesn't need to be used with Lieutenant Surge. I mean, a card that I equate this to quite a lot is Random Receiver. Random Receiver is a card we've had a couple of times, but we haven't had it for a little while. And Random Receiver basically says that you show cards from the top of your deck until you get a supporter and put it in your hand. The problem is, it was really awkward playing stuff like this with, say, Lysander, because oftentimes you'd be looking for a supporter card, and if you were trying to hit an N or a Sycamore, which were the two you'd be going for back then, you'd end up hitting a Lysander, and if you're going for a Lysander, you'd end up hitting an N or a Sycamore. It was a random thing. More recently, and at the moment still, we've got Poker Gear. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck, find a supporter card, put it into your hand. But you might not find the one you want. Okay, this only gets tag teams, but it gives you certainty as to which one you're getting, and it gets 2 of them. But that's just supporter cards. This also gets tag team Pokemon. And this is the point where I think it might be getting a little bit silly. Because you see, at the moment, we don't have good Pokemon Surge. We just don't. We've lost Ultra Ball, we've lost Nest Ball, and we're basically left with a hodgepodge of stuff. Professor Round's lecture for searching out Pokemon with 60 HP or less, but it's a supporter card. Pokemaniac for searching out Pokemon with a retreat cost of 4, but it's a supporter. And they both let you get multiples, but they're supporters and they're very specific. Mysterious Treasure, if you're willing to go Psychic or Dragon. We don't have many. One of the best we do have is Cherish Ball, which searches out a GX. Well, this is like a double Cherish Ball, but only for tag teams. I mean, I mentioned Gardevoir and Sylveon earlier. That is often played as literally just 4 Gardevoir and Sylveon. Some of the lists we saw at Worlds literally only played those 4 Pokemon. Which means that drawing into one of these gets you 2 of your 4 Pokemon straight off the bat. If you're playing a Pikachu and Zekrom deck, you're probably also playing Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Now, to be fair, it is a bit awkward because they're also playing stuff like Dedenne, which is why those decks, even though they've got a discard from the hand to do so, may want to go for Electromagnetic Radar, because if they use Electromagnetic Radar, they can get Dedenne and keep getting set up. I do get that entirely. But my point here is you've got the option. I mean, one of the biggest uses for this is going to be with Mewtwo and Mew decks, because Mewtwo and Mew has Mewtwo and Mew, shockingly enough, as a main attacker. And they also tend to play Reshiram and Charizard. And they can copy the attacks of any other Pokemon. And sure, they play plenty of regular GXs like Latios and Dragonite and Jirachi and etc. But my point here is that they can search them out. And it's not like you need to go for 1 million, because let's not forget Green Search. There are a bunch of decks around, including Gardevoir and Sylveon, and some Reshiram and Charizard, that build around a Green Search engine. If you're not playing any abilities, search for 2 trainer cards, put it into your hand. So now with Green Search, you play Green Search, and then you grab yourself a tag call, and grab yourself 2 tag team Pokemon, and another trainer as well from the Green Search. Or you use Green Search to get a tag call, grab yourself the Pokemon you want, and a tag team supporter for next turn, and any other trainer you want for this turn. This is going to lead to some crazy combos. If this only got tag team supporters, it would be fine. If it only got tag team GXs, it'd be pretty good. But the fact that it can get either of them really does elevate this into next level territory. It's not for every deck. There are going to be a bunch of decks that don't play tag team Pokemon and don't play tag team supporters that are not going to be able to use this. But there are going to be so many decks that do, and therefore can, and for those decks, this is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm giving it between 4 and 5 Wassies. Well, don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. The narrow use of decks really does make me put it down to 4, well, between 4 and 5, rather than giving it 5, but I wouldn't be mad at anyone that just gave this 5 Wassies. This is the kind of card that could make decks more consistent to the point where it literally drastically improves their win rate. This is a phenomenal card. But rather than me banging on about how great it is, I would like to know your opinions on the card. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.